what is new in SAFe 5.0. Some of you might already be familiar with SAFe. SAFe stands for Scaled Agile Framework, and the E at the end is for enterprise level agility, right? So SAFe is one of the most popular scaling frameworks, should I say, in the market today. So there are multiple frameworks in Agile. As you know, there is Scrum, there is Kanban. Kanban is more of a process. There is, there is XP practices, and then there is disciplined Agile, which is again a toolkit, and then SAFe, of course, Scale Agile Framework. All right. SAFe is really popular because companies are struggling, even though they are agile or they think they are agile, they are struggling to be truly agile. So the reason being, only the team is agile, right? A lot of companies have this issue where management, they are still thinking the waterfall fashion, they are still thinking the traditional fashion, but the team is truly agile, right? But there is a disconnect between management and team. Management are thinking in an agile fashion. They are telling the team that, okay, guys, we need this to be delivered by this time, go agile. That honestly, that statement doesn't work, right? Team leadership or management cannot tell the team what they want by when and force the team to be agile, right? Approach has to be, in agility, it's more like, okay, this is what we would like to have by this time. How much do you think you can deliver? That's kind of an approach is what agility is at its best. So moving from the mindset of doing agile to being agile is extremely important for every company. And the only way companies can move from doing agile to being agile is by changing their mindset, right? Changing their mindset, following the principles and value statements. That is the most important change every person and every company needs to have, right? What kind of principles do Agile prescribe and values do Agile prescribe? What kind of principles do SAFe prescribe in particular? Because Agile Manifesto talks about agility, pretty much generic, right? Scaled Agile talks about principles in terms of how do we take agility to the next level, right? The whole business itself, right? Not just the teams, but the program level, the large solution level, the portfolio level, and beyond. So the thing is, the focus of SAFe is to bring business agility at its whole. And that's what we are going to focus on out here. And what this statement on the top, it says your operating system for business agility. And that's what the focus is in SAFe 5.0. All right. This is a major major version. This is a major update in SAFe 5.0 because there are quite a few changes. And let's start getting into the changes right now. Okay. And as Shruti mentioned, if you have any questions, there is a question. There is a question section out there. You can punch in as many questions as you want. At the end of the webinar, I will try and answer all the questions out here. All right. So stay with me. Enjoy this journey. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's go. All right. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go through every single presentation, but the important thing is for us to understand the problem is not with our organization realizing that they need to transform. The problem is that organizations are using managerial frameworks. Sorry. I'm going too far ahead. 2, 3, sorry. Okay, this is where we are. The first and foremost is for us to understand why agility is important, right? Now the key is to understand that our landscape is different, right? Every company today is a software company. Every single domain is a software domain. To be very honest, if you think about this, right? When you talk about manufacturing, it is a software company who is building cars, right? Or clothes or TV or whatever it is, right? When you talk about pharmacy, it is a software company who is building medicines, right? And when you talk about finance, it is a software company talking about money. So every company is today a software company. Even the government organizations, when you talk about them, the private sectors, the public sectors, every company is today a software company, to be very honest, right? With their own domain in focus. The reason I say that is because without digital age, in this digital age, the digital transformation is critical for growth in today's world, in the 21st century. And that is what the revolution is. As you can see in the screen, there have been multiple revolutions in the industry, right? It all started with industrial revolution and so on and so forth. In today, the technological revolution is of age of software and digital. That's what digital transformation is all about. Every single company needs to go through that, right? So if a company is not digital yet, they will surely miss out on the opportunities which is staring at them, right? Now the question is, what are the companies doing about this transformation, and where are they during this period, right? Some of the companies are at the installation period. Some of the companies are at the turning point. Some of the companies are at the deployment period. What I mean by this is that when you say installation period, right? Some of the companies are saying that, do we really need to do this transformation? Is it right for us? We have been doing good business without the digital transformation, right? Why do we need this, right? There are no competitors, especially government organizations are thinking that. But there are companies who are actually at the turning point. When I say turning point, this is where they are actually trying to embrace the reality. They are trying to accept the reality in the fact that, okay, let us try the digital transformation and see how it works, right? So they are getting into it, they are trying to swim with it, and they realize that they need to be part of it, otherwise they will be left behind. And then there are companies who are in the deployment period who have actually realized the benefits, and they have embraced digital transformation or software fully, right? And they are totally agile, and they are delivering true value to the customers today. And they are doing extremely well because they caught the train early enough. And that's why they are number one. If you think about this, right? There was a company called Blockbuster. They used to rent out videos and DVDs and CDs and all those things. They were doing pretty well. And guess who was the competitor who just came up? Yes, that was Netflix. So Netflix, I remember those days when we used to go to Blockbusters and take out the DVDs on rent, watch the videos and come back. And then Netflix was new in the market and people like, okay, Netflix, how will they survive, right? And guess what happened? Because of the digital transformation, because of the change that Netflix accepted, they realized that they need to be on ahead of Blockbuster, and they did that. They applied agility at its best, and they are number one. And in fact, Blockbuster had to close down because they were not fast enough. When you think about BlackBerry, they were the leaders, but they were slow to make the change happen. And that's why now they lost the race, right? Apple, Samsung, they all caught up and they are number one. So it's important to understand that every company needs to realize that digital transformation is important, and being agile is one of the biggest assets they can have to create that digital transformation. So if you think about these examples, as you see, are we at the turning point? When you look at these examples, BMW's group CEO expects that in their future, more than half of its R&D staff will be software developers. Amazon and Whole Food mergers a merger to introduce cross-platform selling and lower prices, right? The market cap of Tesla now exceeds the market cap of Ford, right? That's amazing, right? Ford's such an old company. But the last one is the best I like, which is Apple is now the biggest watchmaker in the world, right? Who would have imagined that to happen? Because they are digital, right? And that's the key. That's where the company is going. So competing in the digital software, the problem is not with our organization realizing that there's a need to transform. Every organization realizes that. What is the problem? The problem is that the organizations are using managerial frameworks and infrastructure models from the past revolutions to manage their business in this one. So a lot of leadership, they still think their old strategies is still going to work, especially when I was working with General Motors, right? It was very difficult to create that change in mindset. especially to go agile, because they used to say that, oh, General Motors is number one company, right? They in the US, so in manufacturing. So they said that we have become number one by using our old way of thinking. Why should we use agile? Because the world is different, right? The world is not the same as you were thinking before. I mean, your strategies worked very well before, perfect, great, good for you. But as time changes, right, you need to change as well. So that's why it's important for every such organizations. In fact, GM is doing extremely well. I was part of OnStar product that we built as part of GM cars, and we built it using agile processes, right? And it was really, really successful. So rethinking the organization is important. The world is not changing at the rate at which the basic systems, structures, and cultures built over the past centuries cannot keep up with the demands being placed on them. All right, that is by John Potter. Now, if you look at what exactly needs to change, this is what it is. Now, when a company is small, now think about this. When a company is small, which means it's a startup kind of a company, every single person in that company is focused only on one thing. And what is that one thing? That one thing is called customer centricity, right? Every single company in that, every single person in that company, including the CEO, the CFO, the developers, the testers, even the janitors of that company, right? They are focused only on, okay, how do we deliver true value to the customer? That's all their focus is, right? So every discussions, they will respect each other. They will try to get thoughts from each other. So a CEO can also become a janitor or a tester can also become a CEO, where they can provide ideas, right? Strategies to the CEO directly. So there was no hierarchy per se. Every single person was having the same value and respect. Okay. So if a customer said that, you know what, I like this, whatever you built, I like it, but I would like to have some more changes out here. And that small company, what the network does, the network just said, no, no, no problem. Absolutely. What change do you need? We will do it right away, right? That is the focus. But as the company starts growing and growing and growing, what exactly happens? So as the company grows, you need to, the company starts adding a hierarchy, right? When I say hierarchy, there are processes, there is policies, there is a structure in place. There are all these, all these things comes into existence in that company, right? Now, it's important to have hierarchy. It's important to have policies, processes, and procedures, and all those things built into a company. But the problem is not having a hierarchy. The problem is slowly this network, which was very strong and which was focused on customer centricity, it starts exploding out, right? It starts shrinking, 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 and slowly it vanishes. Now, what I mean by that is that the network who are focused on customer centricity is no longer focusing on customer centricity. They are focusing on the hierarchy itself. So as the company grows, what happens? And the customer says that, okay, I like this, but I would like to have some changes. Now think about the same scenario when the company has grown. Now, when the customer is asking for a new change, the company would say, oh, sorry, you have to follow our processes, procedures. You'll have to create a change request. That change request will have to go through different, change management processes and all those things, approval processes, CAB processes, and all those things. So by the time the change is understood, it is realized by the customer, it's almost 2-3 months. That change is no longer important for the customer, isn't it? Because of the delay. So it's important to understand that as customers' need grows, and the companies have grown, the network has vanished and the hierarchy comes into existence. This is not very healthy, isn't it? It's not very healthy. But we are not saying that hierarchy is bad. We are not saying that the hierarchy is bad. Hierarchy is very important for creating structure and stability for any company. The solution is not to trash what we know and start over, but instead to reintroduce a system, one which would be familiar to most of these successful entrepreneurs. You need something called a dual operating system. Now, this keyword is extremely important for people who are already familiar with SAFe 4.6 or previous versions of SAFe and getting introduced to SAFe 5.0. This is something new which has come up in SAFe 5.0. They are calling this out because dual operating system is extremely important for business agility. And what the dual operating system is trying to say is that there are two areas of focus that needs to happen. One is the network, which the successful small companies are actually were doing, and the hierarchy as well. So a combination of the network and the hierarchy is extremely important for the whole company to be successful. So SAFe is trying to reignite something which is gone missing or vanished, and that is the network, right? So SAFe is reintroducing the concept of focus, customer centricity, design thinking, understanding what user persona is. You have to understand what journey mapping is, on how to do user story mapping, and all those things have to come back into focus. And that's what is SAFe all about, right? Hierarchy is important because it focuses on efficiency and stability, but the network has to be there because it provides speed of innovation, understanding the customers, delivering true value to the customers, providing customer centricity, right? And that's why the focus of SAFe 5.0 is business agility by using the dual operating system, right? Now, people who are new to SAFe 5.0, this is a keyword that you need to be aware of, especially for those who are going to give the exam or certifications, right? This is very important for you. Business agility with a dual operating system. All right. So that's what we just spoke about. And we have just such an operating system at our fingertips. We have the value stream network and we have the functional hierarchy. So SAFe is going to focus on the value stream network. And that's what the focus is always there. All right. So with that in mind, let's move on to the most important thing, which is what actually SAFe brings. So SAFe brings the focus back to what it takes to bring great solutions to the marketplace, and that is business agility, right? So business agility means that the entire organization, not just development, is engaged in continual and proactively delivering innovative solutions faster than the competition. And that is the goal, right? Everything is a competition today, especially with businesses. So even with government, there is a competition because you need to deliver things really fast. I'll give you a simple example of one of the projects I work for in the government, right? So there is this company, the government department called SBA, which is Small Business Administration. Now, the idea of Small Business Administration is that they really need to deliver things really fast. What is their role? Their job is, in case there is a disaster, right? Something like a hurricane or even coronavirus, for example. A lot of businesses, they have lost, right? Now, once the businesses they are not able to operate, they are struggling, right? So what these businesses in the US they can do is they can apply for loan, right? Some loan which is interest-free loan kind of a thing. So SBA is the one who actually provides those loans to these businesses. Now there is no competition for them, isn't it? Because they are the only government organization who provides loan. But they need to be very fast in providing loan, isn't it? Because if they are not able to deliver or provide loan to the businesses, a lot of businesses and people are struggling to get it. So the kind of processing they need to have from from concept to cash, when we talk about that scratch to finish, right? It has to be extremely fast. Otherwise, the business will not be able to realize or receive the bonus in time. Not bonus, I would say, the support in time. So initially, they were struggling to meet the demands, right? Because there are so many businesses who are asking for or this kind of a support or loan, right? And organization like this, the SBA, the government organization, they were not able to meet the demands because they were not agile enough. They were not able to deliver their value fast enough. That's why they accepted or they transformed their organization to become SAFe. Now we applied SAFe out there. We really did the transformation from waterfall thinking to agile thinking to scaled agile thinking. And now they are able to deliver things really fast to their customers. So it's kind of a way of doing things, right? Doesn't matter what kind of business you are in. It's very important for the entire organization to understand why business agility is critical. And that is why, as you can see in this diagram, SAFe 5.0 focuses on not just the team agility. It talks about the right side, as you can see, the software application is there, the digital system is there, the business solutions are there, right? When you talk about business solutions, there are multiple areas, as you see, that only development, left side, you see that development is agile, but that's not enough. So finance, there is agile finance, right? There is agile for HR, there is agile for marketing, there is agile for legal, there is agile for operations, right? So all these things, the whole organization starts getting transformed to agility. Of course, there will be a lot of constraints. I'm not saying they all can be agile in a standard way. Every department have their own way of working. Understanding agility is nothing but a set of principles and value statements. That is the key. You use Scrum, you use Kanban, you use SAFe, you use disciplined agile, anything, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the focus has to be how can we work together in harmony to deliver true value to the customer. All right. So the business agility requires technical agility and business level commitments to product and value stream thinking. And it requires that everyone involved in delivering business solutions use lean and agile practices. Now, let's focus on the most important thing, which is the business agility. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain what is new in SAFe 5.0. All right. Now, as you can see on the top, it says business agility. This is what has been introduced in SAFe 5.0. In fact, business agility has always been there in SAFe, but they are just calling for attention right here because they are actually stating it right on the top of the framework. So people who are new to SAFe 5.0, I mean, people who are new to SAFe, this is the framework, as you see. So you need to understand this framework to be truly agile, right? Especially if you want to use SAFe as one of the frameworks for agility. So business agility, this is the focus. As you can see, there are multiple layers out here. So I'm going to make some markings on this diagram. So tell me if you can see these. All right, so this is number one. So how many layers are there? Let's look at this. This is the first layer. You see this? And essential. This is the essential configuration. That is the first configuration. The second configuration is called large solution. Have, and all the three configurations are very important for growth. All right. So scaling doesn't mean team level agility. You have to go beyond team level agility, and that's what it shows, right? Essential configuration is a combination of two things. Okay, team and program. So I'm going to explain that in more detail on what exactly these layers mean, right? So that you have a clear understanding of what it is. Now, just not to focus on only this part, I want to also focus on something else. All right, just hold on. Sorry for this. Yeah, there you go. All right. So let me erase all the markings right here and then come back here. Okay. What else is different in SAFe 5.0? All right. So this is what's most important for people who understand SAFe but who are new to SAFe 5.0. There are 7 core competencies in SAFe 5.0. In the previous version of SAFe, there were only 5 core competencies. And where are the competencies defined? This is where it is. There you go. On the left side, I'm marking it for you on the screen. Do you see this? So, but there are only 6 right here. I told there are 7 core competencies. Where is the 7th one? It's right here below, bottom. Okay. So as you can see, there are 7 core competencies from the top: organizational agility, lean portfolio management, enterprise solution delivery, agile product delivery, team and technical agility, continuous learning culture, and then it is lean agile leadership. All right. Now, what is different in SAFe 5.0? There were competencies in the previous version as well, but what is new in SAFe 5.0 is this one. So, organizational agility is new in SAFe 5.0. Continuous, just hold on, sorry. Yeah, this one. The continuous learning culture is also new in SAFe 5.0. What has changed other than these is some of the names have changed, right? For example, they have changed the name of this one, enterprise solution delivery, and also agile product delivery. So these two names have changed from the previous version as well. Okay, so these are some of the changes that you need to make a note of in SAFe 5.0. And in case you're planning to give the exam, be sure to get questions from this new changes, these areas, right? So that is something you need to be aware of. All right, so let me take you uh, to the next page of this presentation. Just hold on. Right, there you go. Okay, so as mentioned, these are the competencies. Forget the one which is on the right side right now for the time being, but focus on the one which is on the left and bottom. These are the core competencies. And the ones which are marked in red, they are new core competencies. And that's how. The ones which are out here marked, these are the ones which are, the names are changed, right? So previously it was known as business solutions and lean system engineering, and that has been changed to enterprise solution delivery. And DevOps and release on demand has been changed to agile product delivery. This doesn't mean DevOps and release on demand is not valid anymore. What it means is that agile product delivery contains DevOps and release on demand. So it's much more than DevOps and release on demand. That's why they have included. So every core competency, okay, in SAFe 5.0, how they are trying to present this is every core competency contains 3 dimensions. All right, so there are 7 core competencies, as I just mentioned. Every core competency represents, there are 3 dimensions attached to it. Okay, when you are studying about SAFe 5.0 and when you are preparing for the exam, you need to remember the 7 core competencies, and you also need to remember the dimensions related to the competency, corresponding competency, right? This is what will make it authentic and complete, right? So now, with that in mind, I would like to take you through the journey of these frameworks. So what I'm going to do is going to explain you the framework. All right. So for that, just hold on. What I want to do is I want to first take you directly to the last page. Okay. So when you talk about, there are multiple changes happening, core values and all those things, right? The most important, all right, the most important change is, sorry, the most important most important layer is essential configuration, right? This is the most important configuration in SAFe. And that's what I'm going to explain in more detail, right? So hold on. So let me take you to only essential, nothing else. So let me do this. I'll remove this from full screen. I will go directly to right here. Okay. So can you all see the essential configuration? I believe you can. So I'm going to explain this in more detail, right? We are breaking all the, so there are three what do you call it, 3 layers, right? Now I'm going to break it out into separate layers to explain what exactly it means. People who are familiar with it, you can also look at it so that I will give you some more refresher of what it is. Okay. All right. So let's explain essential configuration. This is very important for your understanding. So let's go. Now, essential configuration is pretty much divided into 2 parts, as I mentioned. One is called the team layer and the program layer. This is how it was actually perceived in the previous version of SAFe, right? So there were, in the previous versions of SAFe, there were 4 layers: team, program, large solution, and portfolio. But in SAFe 5.0, they have combined team and program, and they are calling it essential. Make sense? All right. But honestly, to be very, very honest with you, I still like the old way of thinking, right? I still like to break essential into two sections, which is team and program. And let's do that to understand better. All right. So this is how I'm going to do. I'm going to draw a thin line, and you can imagine, you can consider this to be an imaginary line, right? And this is a line which I'm breaking essential into two sections. The section below is called team. This section above is called program. All right. Now let's try to go in depth about these two configurations. Okay. Sorry, these two areas. Right. Now let's focus on team. Right. When you talk about team, what we talk about is this is at the team level. Right. This is where the actual work is happening. This is where the development is happening. This is where the testing is happening. This is where the teams deliver true value to the customer. Right. Now, who is part of this team, right? What are the roles and responsibilities that we need to understand as well, right? As you can see, this is a combination of three groups out here. I'm marking it for you. The groups is same as how you define in the previous version of SAFe or even Scrum for that matter, right? There is a product owner, there is a Scrum master, and there is a team. Now, this is a big difference out here in SAFe 5.0. They don't call out dev team here, right? In Scrum or the previous versions of SAFe, probably you realize that this group, this small group, used to be called dev team. But in SAFe 5.0, they have removed this word dev team. The reason being, it's not just the dev team. Sometimes this word dev team is misleading, right? Sometimes when you say it is the dev team, people feel that it's only the developers and the testers. That's it. No one else delivers value. That's not the case, isn't it? When you know in the real world, it's not just the developers and the testers. There are so many other people involved in delivering value to the customers. So why are we only talking about these two groups? And that's why they wanted to remove the word dev team in SAFe 5.0 and then include all these people together. Do you see this? All right. It's a combination of business, development, operations, support. They are all coming together in harmony and delivering true value to the customer. It's not just the development team, right? Whoever it is required to, and of course, when you say support, there are infrastructure, there is operations, there is UX, UI designers. Every single person who needs to be there to deliver value is part of this team, right? So that's one of the changes in 5.0 that you need to be aware of, right? Of course, product owner is the same role as Scrum or the previous versions of SAFe. Scrum Master, you already know, they also have the same roles and responsibilities as previous versions of SAFe or Scrum itself. Okay. Now, the next part is the backlog itself. Now, in SAFe, the backlog is not called product backlog. It is just the terminology which is different. In SAFe, it is called the team backlog right now. As you can see, I've just marked it out there. Now, team backlog contains two things. All right. What does it contain? Requirements, right? Of course, requirements. Team backlog contains requirements, but in the form of user stories and enabler stories. Now, understand this. User stories, which is represented here, and enabler stories, which is represented here. Now, what exactly is the difference between user stories and enabler stories, right? You need to understand that as well. Now, user stories are more functional. When you talk about functional means, okay, the user needs this. And that's why when you write a user story, it is from the user's perspective. As a user, I want this so that I can do, I can get these benefits, right? This is the format of how you write a user story. So usually it is more functional. But can user story just work as is without any support? Of course not, right? You need technical support. You need to add value to the user story, and just functionality is not enough. You need to have non-functional requirements as well. So when I say, okay, I want to, as a user, I want to be able to log into a page so that I can access some of the features or capabilities, right? So if you, that is the user stories, okay, login page is what you want to build. But just having a login page is not enough. You need to understand, okay, what kind of authentication you need, right? What kind of security is required? What kind of performance is required? So performance, security, availability, stability, you know, scalability, security, everything is part of completing the user story to its entirety. So the idea of definition of done is extremely important to be understood. And that's why enablers are part of the backlogs. So there are 4 types of enablers. All right, everyone understands what stories are. I'm just focusing on the enablers right now. Enablers, there are 4 types. The first one is called architectural enabler. The second is infrastructure enabler. Third is compliance. And the fourth is exploration or exploratory enablers. Okay. So architectural and infrastructure enabler, everyone pretty much understands. Now, architectural design has to be right, and you need to build the APIs and all those things, right? That's architectural enablers, right? What kind of software you're using and so on and so forth. Infrastructure enablers is basically the network. The environment has to be ready, right? The network has to be set up, the database has to be there. All those things are part of your infrastructure enablers, right? And much more. And then compliance is any security, access rights, documentation, whatever compliance is required for your company. They are all part of this compliance enabler. And the last one is exploration. Exploration means research, spice, proof of concept. All those things are part of your exploration enabler. So when you have these enablers in place, it pretty much covers all areas, right? So the team backlog contains stories and enablers combined. Now, who owns the team backlog? The product owner owns the team backlog. That's the same as the previous versions and Scrum. Now, what happens is the team together, they run Scrum or Kanban or XP or whatever it is, right? So just assume that it's a 2 week sprint, all right? In SAFe, we don't call it sprints, we call it iterations. Now, the duration of the iterations in SAFe recommends a 2 week iteration. So every iteration or sprint is for 2 weeks, all right? And that's what the recommendation is. And the reason that recommendation is there is because we all know that we need to deliver things early and we need to deliver things fast, right? The shorter the iterations, faster the learning. That's the key. And we don't want to keep it too short, like one week. That may not be able to deliver a lot of value with a 1 week iteration. So that's why shorter the iteration, faster the learning. That's why 2 week iteration is recommended by SAFe. All right, perfect. Now the team goes through an iteration, they start delivering value to the customers. But what is happening is the team is just building a small component of the whole product. Now think about this, right? They are just delivering a small component of the whole product, which is not good for the customers because customers looking at the whole product. They don't want just a small component of the product. They don't want just the wheel of the car. They want the whole car, isn't it? So that's why it's not enough for the teams to be agile. It's important for the whole program to be agile, right? So that's why when the work is complex, when the work becomes complex, that's when it's time for us to scale. Only team level agility works when the work is not complex, when the work is small, right? You have small teams working together, that's fine. Maybe the team level agility will work very well in that environment. But when the work becomes really complex, that's when team level agility is not enough. That's when we need to scale. All right, now let's talk about scaling very quickly. Now when we scale, which means we are introducing the program layer, right? I'm going to remove this and then redraw things here. Now it's important to understand this part. All right, again, this is team and this is program. So when the work becomes complex, you introduce the program layer. Now, how do you know the work is complex? Everyone's definition of complexity is different, right? So how do you know the work is complex? It's based on the number of resources. So if you have around 50, right? If you have around 50 to 125 plus people working together in harmony to build the same product, that's when you know it's time to scale. That's when you know it's time to introduce the program layer, right? See, having clarity of thought is most important. So this number is a ballpark figure, okay? It's not like it's kind of a best practice, but you can customize based on your needs. You don't have to worry like, oh my God, I have just 49 people. Oh my God, I just missed out, right? You don't have to say that because it's up to you to decide when you want to scale. But SAFe gives a ballpark figure or number from 50 to 125 plus. If you have so many resources together, you know the work is complex, you know it's time to scale, you know it's time to introduce the program layer. And when you introduce the program layer, few things you need to understand. The first thing is the roles. Now look at this. The roles come again. Now these roles complement the roles at the team level easily, very well. Now the way I'm talking about them, the way I'm saying it is very simple to understand, right? Now at the team level, you have product owner who owns the backlog, isn't it? At the program layer, you've got the product manager, management who owns the backlog. At the team layer, you have the scrum master who takes care of the process, who is the facilitator, who is the coach, who is the mentor, who removes or who helps remove impediments, right? Similarly, at the program layer, you have RTE. RTE stands for Release Train Engineer. They are pretty much Scrum Master on steroids, right? Or you can say Chief Scrum Master. They do the exactly same role as a Scrum Master, but at the program level, right? Now, at the team level, you have got the development team, the testers, they are all technical, right? Technical folks who help develop the work. At the program level, we have got the system architects. Make sense? So you have these group at the team level and the program level. They complement each other extremely well. They work together in harmony as well. All right. At the team level, you've got something called team backlog. At the program level, you've got something called program backlog. At the team level, the team backlog contains stories and enablers, right? We just explained that. At the program level, we don't have stories. What we have is called features. All right. At the program level, we've got features and enablers. You also have enablers, of course. The the enablers are slightly bigger out there, and then you break down the enablers into smaller enablers. So the idea is very important to understand. You need to start imagining how thinking, start visualizing it, right? Once you visualize, you will get the picture, right? So program backlog contains features. Now features are a collection of related stories. That's the idea. That's what features are. So you can break down the features into smaller stories, right? And they are related to each other, right? They complete the feature. Similarly, enablers, the bigger enablers can be broken down into smaller enablers. So enablers at the program level can be broken down into enablers at the team level. That's the idea. Now, the most important thing is the cadence, right? Now, the cadence at the team level, or we call it iterations, is for 2 weeks, right? The cadence at the program level is not called iterations. It is called program increment, right? Do you see this? Program increment below? All right, that's called program increment, or in short, PI. So every PI, the duration of a PI out here, these bars, right? This represents the PI. The duration of the PI is approximately 1/4. All right. So that's the focus of PIs, right? Now, 1/4 means because there are multiple iterations within a PI, and if, for example, in this diagram, there are 5 iterations within a PI. In every iteration is 2 weeks length, then the duration of the PI is 10 weeks, isn't it? Right? So that's the idea of understanding what a PI is. PI is program increment, all right? So you can consider a PI to be approximately 8 to 12 weeks, which means approximately 1/4. Usually that's the duration of every release, isn't it? And this is how you need to try to start visualizing things. The 5th iteration is called the IP iteration, the last iteration, I would say. In this case, it is the 5th, but it could be different for your organization. The last iteration is called IP iteration. IP stands for innovation and planning. So the idea of SAFE is that every team is working very, very hard, right? They're working very hard every single iteration, but you don't want them to burn out, right? That's why you need to give them some time to sit back, relax, understand, okay, how can we innovate, how can we do better? The relentless improvement or continuous improvement, the kind of Kaizen principle comes into play, right? And that has to be part of your IP iteration. This is why every other iteration has got a deadline, but IP iteration, there is no deadline. People still work very hard, but it's time to do some innovation and start planning and proceeding for the next PI, right? Now the first ceremony, all right, first ceremony for iterations at the team level is called iteration planning, or sometimes it is called, at Scrum it is called sprint planning, right? In SAFe it is called iteration planning. Similarly, at the program level, the first ceremony of a PI, program increment, is called PI planning, right? And that's the idea. So PI planning, the duration of PI planning is for 2 days. So PI is for 1 quarter, but you need to plan for the PI, right? So the duration of PI planning is 2 days. Again, this is a ballpark figure. You can have a 3-day PI, you can have a 1 day, sorry, you can have a 3-day PI planning, you can have a 2-day PI planning, 1-day PI plan based on your agile maturity. That's what the focus is out there. All right. Now, this is extremely important for you to understand. In agile and in scaled agile, there is something called a train. That train is called agile release train. Now, who is on board this train? Every single person is on board this train. When I say everyone, means 50 to 125 plus. By the way, this number includes your developers, your testers, your business, your customers, your architects, your operation team, your infrastructure team, you name it. If you are a stakeholder in that product, in developing that product, you better be there, right? And that's what this number is, a combination of all these people coming together. Because without these people coming together, there won't be enterprise level agility, right? And that's what this is all about. Okay. The other thing which is new in SAFe 5.0 is this part, which is customer centricity and design thinking. And without customer centricity, the network won't be there, right? We spoke about the network. And design thinking, based on what the customer requires or needs, we design our solution, right? And that's what the combination has to be there. That's extremely important. Okay. So this is what the focus is. Just to conclude my thoughts in the framework part. So what we need to do is understand this framework. The essential configuration is important, but what if you have more than 125 people who is working together? What if the work is really complex? What if you have 200 people? What if you have 300 people? What do you do? So to understand that, what we need to understand is the next configuration, right? So let me explain the next configuration, which is very quickly, very briefly. This is called the large solution configuration. Now, when you have more than 150, 200, 300 people, then what do you do? This train has a capacity, right? The doors will close. It's not like the trains in the other parts of the world where you can actually hang out of the window or go to the roof of the train. You cannot do that out here. This train, the doors will close. The limit of the train, the capacity is around 125, 130, 140 people. What if you have 200 people? What you'll do is you'll call another train, and that is called the solution train. That's when the large solution gets introduced. So large solution is if the work is really complex, if you have really a lot of people who are working, the number of resources increases, right, drastically. That's when you introduce multiple agile release train, and that's what large solution is all about. That's called the solution train. And there are these roles who complement the same thing that we just discussed. You have STE, solution train engineer, solution management, solution architect. They are all coming together and play the same roles as they did in the previous configuration. So this is what happens. Now, I don't want to leave you hanging in terms of, okay, what about the other configuration? So let me conclude my thoughts before I take all the questions, is um, to show the full configuration. Now, this full configuration, okay, it's out here. All right. This full configuration includes a portfolio on the top as well, right? So very quickly understand this portfolio configuration is on the top. Everything starts with a vision of the company. Now, the enterprise, our government, everything, they have a vision. From the vision, they have strategic themes. Theme means, okay, let's have a strategy for the company, right? Or the portfolio. Now, with that portfolio strategy, they have a portfolio vision. With that vision, they have something called epics. Now, these are epics, which is part of this backlog. This backlog is called portfolio backlog. These epics are derived from the strategy, all right, of the company. Something really big, right? Those epics are broken down into capabilities in under solution level. They are called capabilities, which is part of solution backlog. Those capabilities are broken down into features, which is part of essential at the program level, program backlog. Those features are broken down into stories, which is at the team backlog. So this is exactly how the work comes through. Everything starts with a vision. Vision is broken down into strategies. Strategy is broken down into epics. Epics are broken down into capabilities. Capabilities are broken down into features, which are broken down into stories. And that's how the work is delivered. This is called the V model. The requirements come from the top and it is delivered from the bottom. That's why it is called the V model. All right. And this is how the journey of the whole enterprise being agile begins.